Welcome to my presentation for the Virtual Knowledge Exchange number 2 on climate adaptation platforms, supporting and working with local authorities and other local users. My name is Robin Burkett and I work for Mackay Regional Council in the Strategic Planning Program. I work on infrastructure planning and development controls to minimise the threat of natural hazards. I was invited to participate in this forum by the Australian CSIRO through my involvement as a local government stakeholder in the NESP Earth Systems and Climate Change Hub Stakeholder Advisory Group. Mackay is located on the central coast of Queensland, and we are a wet tropics bioregion with rainforest in our hinterland and Yungala to the west. We have around 320 kilometres of coastline with a population of approximately 118,000 with 24 plus coastal communities, but the majority of the population is located in Mackay, which is on the banks of the Pioneer River, bordered by the Coral Sea. You can also see the Great Barrier Reef exists out to our east in the Coral Sea, and we have around 70 tropical islands in our coastal area. Council looks after roads, water and sewerage, waste, community facilities, flood and coastal management, which I work in. We receive around one cyclone every 2 years that approaches the coast within 150 kilometres of Mackay, which has occurred since our records in around 1910. Around 40% of our properties are affected by either coastal or flood hazards. This is an aerial image of Mackay, and you can see the Coral Sea to the east and the Pioneer River separating North and South Mackay, with our CBD located on the southern banks of the Pioneer River. We have been using in our planning a 0.8 metre sea level rise to 2100, and this is following the RCP 8.5. However, we're planning for the worst and hoping for the best, and we are looking forward to an increase in our efforts to reduce the carbon emissions so that we need less adaptation than is currently preparing for. Today I'm talking about CoastAdapt, which was designed and developed by the National Climate Change Adaptation Research Facility, or NCARF. And the platform's about building knowledge to take action for a changing climate in coastal Australia. It's been designed and developed based on extensive consultation with potential users, both workshops and online surveys, and it's a user-focused platform. It gives users the ability to look at data at a glance or deep dive into the information about what is climate change, how to assess the risks and impacts, understanding adaptation, undertaking adaptation, and connecting with the adaptation community. It's current and authoritative. Mackay was a tool development and implementation partner for CoastAdapt, and we were first introduced to NCARF through the biannual Climate Adaptation Conference. We prepared, along with many others, an expression of interest for NCARF to be a tool development partner, which then transferred to be an implementation partner. And we were fortunate to have synthesis workshops undertaken in Mackay after the tool was developed to ensure our council area was knowledgeable about what CoastAdapt provided. This is the homepage for CoastAdapt, and there's the link and the YouTube video which provides an overview of the platform, and it's a very user-friendly focus where you can easily locate the information that you're searching for. One of the tools in CoastAdapt that Council has been using is the Coastal Climate Adaptation Decision Support Tool, where it's going through a 6-step process of identifying the challenges, assessing the risks and vulnerability, identifying options, evaluating plans, taking action, and monitoring and evaluation. And I'll go through an example at McEwan's Beach, which has been a long-term adaptation journey, and just highlighting that these journeys never end and are long-term, and unless they're embedded in our corporate plans, we can't just let them depend on different champions. It needs to be followed through strategies and monitoring over time for success. The challenges that we've had with platforms, and this was about over 10 years ago, was that the climate change data wasn't clear for sea level rise. We had different authorities telling us one true source and others telling us another. So we found that it was very confusing. So platforms need to be consistent with their information so that we know, and local authorities have comfort that it's a definitive, true source of information and that there is only one source for that truth. Another challenge has been the multidisciplinary and multi-sector approach for adaptation, where we need to have adaptation built into our plans, strategies, and more importantly, our strategic risk management framework. Challenges with the existing community, which may not be there in another 20 years, have been difficult at times, but ongoing education and talking to them about the everyday issues such as home affordability and insurance has been beneficial to get that story of resilience across to people. And now it's common where people will look at the cost of insurance as a market lever as to their risk, because the insurance providers do have our flood and coastal risk information to more accurately price the insurance policies, which are reviewed annually. So I found that useful, talking to them about issues that are relevant to them in the now. As per everyone, it's competing with everyday issues about roads, rates and waste, but investment now will save in the future, and that's been shown with the McEwan's Beach community, where they've made an investment which has paid off for them in the now. This is the framework which we have for climate change adaptation in the coastal and flooding realm. We have national, state, regional and local advice as to what the future will look like, and local guidelines and plans. Some useful information about the Queensland Government approach to climate adaptation is available on that link for the QCAS, and also the QCoast 2100 program is very useful for providing that state guidance on coastal adaptation. We also have local strategies, the Mackay region Storm Smart strategy, and local coastal plans that provide benefit to us to guide our actions in the adaptation process. So there's a lot of working groups, strategies, policies and plans that we have to follow, and it can be quite complex when we're dealing with the community and what they see as their drivers. So it's just showing that the space is very complex and we are at the bottom of the food chain when we're dealing with strategy, so we need to have them all talking and in line to inform our actions. The McEwan's Beach seawall is an example of the adaptation protect process, and I'll talk through this project soon. So you can see here McEwan's Beach. It's a small coastal community located around 8 kilometres south of Mackay. In 1962, McEwan's Beach only had around 26 dwellings, and it was more of a holiday destination where compared to today where people live in the community, and then the Northern Beach area was undeveloped. Compared to today, where we have around 80 dwellings in McEwan's Beach with around a population of 140. There's been significant erosion on the Northern Beach side with accretion of around 50 metres on the southern side of the beach. So you can see here the properties on the northern section of the beach were quite concerned about erosion and the erosion scarp becoming closer and closer to their properties over time after each tropical cyclone event and the storm bite occurring. The extent of the McEwan's Beach seawall, which was constructed in 2015 to 2016, is shown here by the yellow line. You can see the erosion scarp of what it used to look like back in 2003 compared to today with the seawall in 2016. So the seawall was funded by the residents, which was originally on council land. However, the existing council open space lot was reconfigured to create 11 lots, with individual landowners now having ownership of the adjoining lot and the responsibility to maintain their respective portions of the rock wall, which are covered by an easement to ensure that the group does it together as one, not in individual portions. Mackay has a policy for funding of coastal protection work, which has been used in several times over the last 15 years for coastal protection work. This is just the adaptation plan for McEwan's Beach, and it came to a fore after TC Yilluwi in 2010, where there was significant erosion. Up to that point, council had designed a seawall for the community, but wasn't able to gain the support of the majority of the community to be able to fund that work. So beach nourishment was proposed, however, it was never enacted upon due to costs. However, TC Debbie in 2014 triggered the local group to come together. The landowners designed and self-funded the seawall, and council was there to collaborate and work on the development approvals on behalf of the community to ensure that the seawall was constructed and the land transfer finalised. So that wall has a design life of 50 years. So the McEwan's Beach community now has some form of coastal protection from tropical cyclones and other storm tide events for the next 20 to 50 years or so. However, there's also emergency management and planning controls for the settlement to ensure that there is an intensification of the development and that everyone is aware of what actions. There's also a local coastal plan that looks at the fencing of areas and different 5-year actions for the area. So when we're talking about climate adaptation platforms, as a local actor, we love networking and regular catch-ups and updates. We love case studies, stories and infographics, a user focus and ongoing maintenance of the tool to ensure that it's updated, reflected of current day activities, and there's a network connected to share our stories. The implementation strategy for coastal adaptation needs to be embedded in our corporate strategies and operations, as we can't rely on individual champions alone as they move over time. So there are our lessons learned. I'd like to thank you for listening to my presentation, and please email me questions if you have any. And I'd like to thank the NCARF team for involving us in the CoastAdapt platform, and the National Environmental Science Program and Earth Systems and Climate Change Hub for inviting me to present on the local actor. Thank you.